Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Hector Navarro, filling in for Eric Voss while he is out on paternity leave. Yay, Eric! And this is a breakdown of the 10th and final episode of Season 7 of Rick and Morty, titled Fear No Mort. This is a mind-bender of an episode, bringing together plot threads not just from this season, but from the entire series. We're going to break down all the jokes, callbacks, and animation details you might have missed. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to our other channels, The Break Room and The Deep Dive. And as always, the best way to support the channel is by heading over to nerdriot.shop and grabbing some sweet pop culture merch. Rick and Morty casually amble through a hellscape that looks a little like the Upside Down from Stranger Things. It turns out they were in some sort of interplanetary haunted house, looking for thrills, but it's just not working. Morty says,
This carnival of nightmares used to be scary, right?
We've seen too much.
Fighting against numbness and apathy has been a big theme this season. We've seen Rick cope with the emptiness he feels after killing his nemesis, Rick Prime, in episode 5. And in episode 9, Morty says,
I'm desensitized, Rick. I took some kind of test in school, and the counselor had to call Homeland Security.
Even this spooky carnival can't make them feel anything, despite how horrible it is. In the background, we see a spooky clown lady above a dunk tank filled with knives. They're approached by a suited man, voiced by the star of Ray Donovan, Liev Schreiber, who has some serious Rod Serling vibes. Rod Serling was the creator of The Twilight Zone and would pop into episodes to give some creepy context. This dude says he knows a place on Earth where Rick and Morty can find some scares. We end up at a Denny's. This isn't the first time Rick and Morty have visited a real restaurant. In the Rick Shank Rickdemption, they visited a Shoney's. The plot of Final Desmethation kicks off when the family gets some insane fortune cookies from Panda Express. Rick and Morty think that the suit guy just tricked them into giving him a ride. They decide to head into Denny's anyway. Rick has an insane order that includes
a lumberjack slam, graham sandwich, pancake puppy, slam burger, 2 milkshakes, and an order of cheddar tots.
These are all real Denny's menu items, except that the cheddar tots don't appear to be available in the United States. Denny's in Indonesia has loaded jalapeno cheddar tots, and Denny's Canada has bacon cheddar tots. I've never been more jealous of Canada and Indonesia. Rick's chaotic order could be another tactic to try and feel something via food, or because it's Rick, he could just be fighting a hangover. Their waiter lets them know in a very blasé tone that if they're there for the hole, it's in the men's bathroom. There is indeed a spooky hole in the men's bathroom that looks just like the entrance to the mirror cave from The Last Jedi. Rick and Morty, the show, has never shied away from a Star Wars reference. They even had an entire episode about a lightsaber. This season's Rise of the Numericons had a ton, including a scene in an Ewok village and a villain who appeared via hologram like the Emperor or Supreme Leader Snoke. There's a TV VCR combo in the bathroom stall that plays an intro video featuring Suit Guy entitled How to Hole. According to the video, you jump in the hole and it shows you your worst fears. Come out with a new lease on life and you get your photo on the wall. He's talking about Gara Rufa, or often used for pedicures. As the tape then cuts at the end, we see it distort Suit Guy in a really creepy way, making us think he's a demon or manifestation of death or something. The footage that it cuts to is the end of a commercial featuring Muammar Gaddafi getting a Mountain Dew. I guess someone taped the whole video over something else. Gaddafi was a Libyan revolutionary who had conflict with the US in the 80s, suggesting that this is when the whole video was made. The Simpsons used him in a similar way when Bart passed up an even then out-of-date t-shirt of Spinal Tap kicking him in the butt. Rick is uninterested, but Morty dives in. He's immediately attacked by some very scary but kind of generic shadow monsters. Rick jumps in after him, wrecks shop, and pops them out of the hole. Rick takes their photo, puts it on the wall next to the photo of the white-haired guy we saw in the intro video, and 2 other characters we haven't seen yet. A hipster-looking guy looking terrified, and a red-haired woman looking messed up but kind of ecstatic. Back at home, the Smith family is watching Cake or Fake, the Is It Cake parody we saw in episode 7. We see that in this episode, instead of a person who might be cake tied up, it's a giant slice of cake that might actually be a person. A portal opens in the ceiling, dropping in a young Rick and his wife Diane, who Rick has been searching for / trying to avenge for the entire series. The young Rick dies, suggesting that they're from a universe where he dies instead of Diane. The Smith family is terrified, but Rick and Morty stay calm. They assume what we, the fans of this show and all its plot twists, probably also assume. They're still in the hole. Rick assumes that this is Morty's fear playing out. That fear being that if Rick gets Diane back, he won't need Morty anymore. Rick offers to take everyone for ice cream so he can gather more data. Rick gives himself a de-aging serum and tries to explain to everyone that they're not real, that this is all a projection of the whole. He tells them they're all NPCs. NPC stands for non-player character. Rick says that his main quest is trying to get back with Diane. which she's understandably grossed out by. Back at home, everyone is mad at Rick. Morty suggests that the fear they're experiencing might actually belong to Rick. That fear being ruining a second chance with Diane. Diane is sleeping on a pull-out bed in the Smith's spare room. We see a corny "Life is Rough" golf poster that seems like something Jerry would get a kick out of. Rick sends a singing robot to apologize to Diane. She says she recognizes the arms on the robot. Rick says that they belong to a robot he was building for the feds, which is how he and Diane first met. He invites her to the zoo with the family. At the zoo, Summer is in the middle of a story about Rick exploring a civilization that lived on one of her zits. I don't think this is a reference to anything that's ever happened on the show. I like that these jokes are just suggesting that the Smiths are having insane adventures all the time, even when we're not seeing them. Rick and Diane feed some ducks. Rick feeds them some bread that makes them talk. They just scream at each other. This reminds me of the classic Far Side cartoon where a scientist decodes dog language only to find out they're just saying hey. Rick says he got the idea for the duck decoder from Diane's master's thesis.
Jewelry's fun, right? Put some sparkly rings on your fingers and bam, you feel fancy. But engagement rings are next level. That ring's gonna be there forever ever. So it's gotta be perfect, and you can get your perfect bling at JamesAllen.com. JamesAllen.com makes designing custom engagement rings and fine jewelry super easy, which I love because then I can confidently say things like princess cut feels a little gauche to me. I'm more of a marquee cut kind of gal. Choose from over 200,000 diamonds conflict free in either earth created or lab created. You know, the Steve Rogers versus Captain America type rocks. After you pick your diamond, you can check it out in HD, magnified and zoomed around in 360, like better than you could if you were at an actual jewelry store. It's wild. Once you've got the diamond you like, match it with a metal like platinum, white gold, rose gold, yellow gold, and one of the 100 other styles. When you're done customizing your ring at JamesAllen.com, you'll have the perfect piece of jewelry for yourself, and you'll have saved up to 50% compared to traditional retailers. If you're not the customizing type, no judgment. JamesAllen.com also has a ton of fine jewelry pieces. All jewelry from JamesAllen.com comes with a lifetime warranty, free resizing and engraving, and hassle-free 30-day returns. I eat that up. JamesAllen.com has already been part of over 200,000 engagements around the world, and yours could be next. Customize your engagement ring or jewelry piece today with James Allen and get 25% off by clicking the link in the description. Go ahead, click on it.
They go to grab a drink at an alien bar. We see that the bartender is keeping track of the shots they're taking for some kind of contest. We see Slark is in first place, followed by Rick, Diane, Glar, and then a few competitors whose names are written in an alien language. We've met Glar before in the episode One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The shot contest reminds me of the one from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Diane then says,
"Oh, when did you stop being a lightweight?"
Kept looking for my wife at the bottom of a bottle.
It's nuts to think about Rick as a lightweight. I guess the hard partying Rick we know was born when Diane died. Rick and Diane kiss in the rain despite the fact that they both recently puked. That's love, baby. Back at home, Rick is looking sharp in a suit but has spooky looking bags under his eyes. We also see toothpaste, deodorant, and some other hygiene products. Rick has clearly been spiffing up for Diane. Morty is concerned that the hole is feeding on Rick. Rick brushes him off so he and Diane can go to Showbiz Pizza. This is, of course, the competitor to Chuck E. Cheese's that features an animatronic bear Rick is excited to see. Morty goes back to the Denny's. He and the suit guy argue about the nature of fear, love, and death. Suit guy refuses to let Morty go because the hole needs to feed on Rick's fear. Morty returns to the house and starts facing all his fears in order to please the hole. He puts a spider in his mouth and it does nothing. He realizes his greatest fear is not being accepted. He heads to high school and proceeds to humiliate himself. He hands a bully a note that says, top 5 things Morty likes about Jessica. 1, the smell of her gym shoes. 2, the way she says succulent. 3, her name means foresight in Hebrew. 4, her skin is so pretty it makes my wiener hurt. Don't nobody take that clip out of context of me just saying that. The bully teases him because he only had 4 entries in his top 5 list. What a dummy. Morty does a trust fall in front of some cool kids. He then volunteers himself for a school play called 3 Days of Rain and lies about knowing the lines. This is an actual play from the 90s that shares a name with an unrelated movie from the early 2000s. And I wish Eric Voss were here for this next bit. Rick and Diane compare how Lost ended in their respective universes. Rick got the same ending that we did, but Diane says,
Jack, Locke, and Sawyer teamed up to kill a fog monster and everyone got rescued. It was 1 season long and it was perfect television.
I, for one, loved all 6 seasons and the finale of Lost, but I get it. It's like Rick says, you can be great or you can be around forever. Possibly commentary on the 100 episode deal of Rick and Morty itself? Maybe? I don't know. Diane then starts to glitch out and Rick realizes that Morty is trying to disrupt the hole. Back at school, Morty jumps up on stage for the school play naked. We see that the hole has made him very emaciated looking. Rick realizes that by keeping him and Morty in the hole, it's killing them both. Rick goes on stage naked himself, tells a convenient DJ that happens to be on the side of the stage to drop a beat, and they perform a rap that's like a bizarro naked version of Get Swifty from season 2.
I don't know how to rap. I don't know how to rhyme. I don't know how to rap.
This seems to do the trick. The scene fades away and Diane waves goodbye. They climb out of the hole, only to find out that they're still in the hole. They confess fear after fear to each other, and each time we see that they haven't actually climbed out of the hole. They decide that uncertainty might be the fear they need to conquer and just walk away. Back at home, they admit they don't actually know if they're still in the hole or not. Rick goes off to get drunk and Morty goes up to his room. We see a music montage of Rick and Morty gradually accepting that they may or may not be in their old reality. We see some clips of would-be classic adventures like Rick making a beer cloning machine, running from some aliens while carrying crystals, hot wiring the car mid-crash, laughing at what's probably interdimensional cable. We see Morty go off to college and eventually graduate. Both Beth and Clone Beth are at both events. Rick and Morty get drunk together in a bar. Morty looks like the 26-year-old version of himself we saw in Rick Mirai Jack. He's in awesome shape here and looking great with a little stubble. Looks like Morty has what might be a tribal tattoo on his right arm. What a dork. We see Jerry helping Morty move using a Yuto truck with the adorable toe mascot that we saw in the Rick Shank Rickdemption. Summer marries a handsome-looking dude. It seems like the Smiths are the only people sitting on her side. Rick is passed out while the Beths drink wine. Regular Beth sips out of a glass while Space Beth pounds right from the bottle. Interesting that we don't see Jerry in this moment. Maybe he died or doesn't approve of the marriage for some reason. Morty gets yelled at in an office while Rick injects anti-aging serum like a junkie. We see that he's balding and has a wig made to look like his classic hair. Morty buys a house and reveals via bathroom mirror that he has turned into his dad. He does indeed look just like Jerry in this shot, and we smash cut to reveal he's been in the hole the whole time.
No wordplay, Morty.
The show has done similar A Life in a Series of Moments montages, most recently in That's a MORTY this season. Both episodes are credited to the hilarious writer Heather Ann Campbell. She does an awesome video game podcast called Get Played, where one of the segments is a dive into her retro hardware titled Heather's Hole. Connections, we love them. Great job, Heather. That's a Morty. Woof, what an episode. Back at the hole entrance, Rick says something that makes Morty realize what his fear was the entire time.
No, we're Rick and Morty. I'm not leaving without you.
Morty realizes his fear is that Rick doesn't actually feel like that he wouldn't come in the hole after Morty. It makes sense that Morty would feel like this. He's seen countless clones of himself, and in many cases, those clones are heartlessly killed. Rick constantly places him in dangerous situations, and he feels expendable. When he tells this to Rick, his mouth gapes, and we hear this suit guy say,
"Thank you for visiting the fear hole, Morty. Your fear of relying on Rick has been delicious."
This seems to do it. Morty wakes up not in a dark void, but in a gross-looking sewer. He sees Rick a few feet up, proving that his fear was real. Rick didn't actually come in after him. Morty seems at peace with all this. He gives Rick a big hug, kind of like the one we saw him give the blood-covered Rick after he killed Rick Prime. He pulls back because he doesn't want to know if he's still in the hole or not. They head back to the dining room, but Rick runs back in again. He considers going in the hole, presumably because Diane might be in there, but he doesn't. We could see this as Rick choosing to move on, to stop the search for Diane. He reaches into his wallet and pulls out a picture of Morty to tack on the board. And yes, it's adorable that he carries around Morty's picture in his wallet, a sign that he does in fact consider Morty irreplaceable. For our post-credits scene, we go to Mr. Poopy Butthole shaving in what looks like a dumpster. He was the focus of the post-credit scene for the season 6 finale and the cold open of this season, so it's kind of like Mr. Poopy Butthole is guiding us through the story at this point. He portals into another reality where he's still with his wife and kid. You'll remember his wife left him for a predator in episode 1. He knocks out the other version of him, tosses him into the portal, and assumes his place at the table. On the wall, we see a family photo montage featuring not just Mr. Poopy Butthole and his wife and his kid, but the Smith family too. His wife brings him a beer, but we cut out on her suspicious look. And that's it for season 7 of Rick and Morty. Eric Voss is going to be back from Babytown before you know it. I've been Hector Navarro. Thank you so much. Be sure to check out my other YouTube channel called Heroes Reforged. We just did a cooking special where I had to cook for my friends, and I don't know how to cook. It's a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys later. Bye.